Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Africa, the land of eternal observer missions and endless condolences, woke up today to the shocking discovery that African Union can, in fact, tell when an election is rigged. Yes, after clapping for blood-stained tyrants for decades, the AU has bravely concluded that Tanzania's election violated democratic values. This comes only after thousands of corpses, an internet blackout, and a landslide win of 98%, numbers that would make even North Korea blush. Observers say they saw ballot stuffing, missing agents, and were literally chased out of counting stations. But hey, democracy, African style, means everyone participates except voters. And while the AU timidly admits it didn't meet international standards, President Samia Suluhu Hassan is already polishing her throne, dismissing all criticism as exaggerated. Across the region, people now joke that the AU only observes to confirm how bad things really are, and then goes home with pedims and selfies with dictators. Back home, Zimbabwe's Finance Minister Mthuli Ncube seems to have borrowed a few pages from the same fantasy manual. Standing before MPs in Bulawayo, he proudly declared that Zimbabweans are now in the upper middle income bracket. The same Zimbabweans currently calculating whether to buy bread or electricity tokens. According to him, the average citizen now spends $9 a day, which in Zimbabwe translates to one loaf of bread, half a liter of cooking oil, and emotional damage. Ladies and gentlemen, an average Zimbabwean family is a family of 5. $9 a day per person means $40 per day for the family. Multiply that by 28, you get 1,120. In other words, Mthuli Ncube is saying the average salaries in Zimbabwe are 1,120 US dollars. A secondary school teacher is getting less than $300. And that's the majority of the civil servants. And from this, you can see how our leaders are so much removed from reality, the reality that they have created themselves. The World Bank defines upper middle income countries as earning above 4,000 per capita. But Mthuli insists that we are almost there thanks to his National Development Strategy 1. Economists call it statistical witchcraft. Citizens call it comedy. Because while Mthuli counts per capita, the majority earns less than $250 US a month. And that's if they are lucky enough to have a payslip. Meanwhile, the IMF, clearly reading a different script, says Zimbabwe remains highly dollarized. Translation: everyone still prefers Uncle Sam's green paper to Muthuli's golden fantasies. The IMF diplomatically reminded Harare that confidence in a currency cannot be declared into existence. It's earned through credible policies, not press conferences. But who needs credibility when you can declare victory at a pre-budget seminar? And speaking of budget miracles, Mthuli also announced that the Monomotapa Hotel, once a tourist jewel, now a taxpayer liability, has been bought by the government to house members of parliament. That's right. MPs now get their own luxury hotel, complete with air conditioning and irony, funded by the same citizens who can't afford rent. It's the sequel to the infamous Quality International Hotel deal of 2016, which still sits abandoned like a monument to wasted millions. Because in Zimbabwe, failed projects don't die. They just reincarnate under new names and the same ministers. In the corporate world, OK Zimbabwe, once the pride of local retail, is now in such distress that shareholders are begging INSCO to rescue it. From supermarket aisles to financial ICU, OK Zimbabwe's collapse reads like an obituary for local industry. Years of mismanagement, shrinking profits, and economic chaos have pushed the company towards a potential takeover. If INSCO steps in, it won't be a merger. It will be a messy mission. And INSCO might just as well run the country. And in Harare, the US $750 million smart water meter project has councillors foaming at the mouth. Officials claim it will promote efficiency and transparency, two words that rarely appear in the same sentence as Seat of Harare. Critics, however, say it's just another grand heist wrapped in buzzwords. Councillor Denford Nganzore demanded to know who exactly will pay US $750 million for meters when residents can't even get running water. The government, meanwhile, calls it modernization. Zimbabweans call it privatization of thirst. $750 million could have gone a long way in addressing the water challenges of Harare. Some residents of Harare are now getting water from bores in a city. As the country debates who is stealing faster, the public or private sector, the government has apparently decided that even statues aren't safe. Nick Mangwana revealed that the Mbuya Nehanda statue was fenced off after people tried to vandalize it. One assumes this is what happens when a hungry public sees a golden idol in the middle of a city that can't afford streetlights. Tourists who traveled halfway across the world to see it were told access denied, national security reasons. In fact, reasons were not given because in Zimbabwe, even ancestors need a police permit. Elsewhere, Youth Minister Trinoma Chakaire says the drug crisis is now a national emergency, pleading for a whole-of-society approach. That's a fancy way of saying we have no plan. With unemployment at record levels, cheap drugs have become the country's unofficial youth policy, a tragic escape route for a lost generation. Machakaire's sincerity is commendable, but unless government stops funding hotels and starts funding rehabilitation centers, the whole of society will soon be high together. Internationally, Hamas returned another Israeli captive's body as Gaza continues to suffer severe shortages of food, shelter, and medicine. Aid groups warn that the winter could turn the humanitarian crisis into a catastrophe as Israel maintains tight control of crossings despite the ceasefire. But hey, in this world, politics always arrives faster than medicine. And finally, in sports, the Warriors coach, Romanian Super Mario Marinica, has been unveiled amid public confusion. Zifa promises he's the man to deliver miracles. Given that his last team finished bottom of its group, the only miracle will be if Zimbabwe scores before the next election. History shows our $1 million investment in foreign coaches has produced exactly 3 wins in 17 years. At this rate, the fans could coach themselves for free and probably do better. So between the AU's shocked discovery of tyranny, Mthuli's upper middle income hallucination, and Harare's $1 billion water meters, Africa seems to have turned delusion into public policy. This is Zimwaves TV, where satire meets sanity. Don't just scroll, subscribe, share, and stay awake because someone has to keep the dreamers accountable.